Hello, Vulcan riders. Today I'm going to talk about the best timing and speed for the gear shifting on the Kawasaki Vulcan 900, how it compares with what is recommended by the Kawasaki owner's manual, how it impacts the bike's performance and riding safety, and last but not least, I'll talk about if you really need the sixth gear on your Vulcan 900. This is Max. Welcome to my channel. I've seen a lot of discussions on various motorcycle forums about what the best timing and speed to switch gears are. There is a lot of different opinions, but I'm going to tell you what I do when I ride and why. First, let's talk about the physics a little bit. There are two things people are usually talking about when they describe their motorcycles. Those are torque and power. Torque is a rotational force. Torque is measured in foot-pounds or Newton meters. Power is the ability to do work over time. It is measured in horsepower. If you can do more work in less time, you are more powerful. The more power you have, the less time it takes to do some amount of work. For example, the more power a motorcycle has, the less time it takes that motorcycle to go from 0 to 60 miles per hour. Work is what happens when you apply a force through a distance. Thus, power and torque are related. You can see it on the chart with the engine's horsepower and torque curves. Here is one for Kawasaki Vulcan 900 Classic. Like pretty much all with twins, Kawasaki Vulcan 900 has the highest torque at the lower RPMs. You can see here that Vulcan 900 has torque of 56-57 foot-pounds at about 3,500 RPM. It is actually about the same from 33 to 3,700 RPM. It has maximum power of 4,950 horsepower at much higher RPM, around 56 to 5,700. Cruiser motorcycles are the heavy ones, and we actually need higher torque on the lower RPM end to start moving them. But increased torque comes at cost. On twins, the power is much lower at the lower RPMs, and it is hard to accelerate faster at the lower RPMs. This is important to remember when you watch how I accelerate. Let's first watch how I accelerate as it is recommended in the owner's manual. It says that you need to switch from the first gear to the second at about 20 kilometers per hour, 12 miles per hour, from the second to third at 30 km per hour, 19 miles per hour, and so on, as you can see it in the table from the manual. Listen to the sound of the engine as you watch it. Now let's see how the engine works during such acceleration. Here on the top chart, you can see the power and torque curves, and I will show you the RPMs and respective power at the time of gear switches. On the bottom chart, you can see how RPM drops at the time of the gear switch. When you accelerate, as it is recommended in the manual, you change gears when you reach about 2100 RPM. When you switch from first to second gear, RPM drops to just over 1400 RPM. At this point, your engine only has about 10 horsepower or even less. When you switch from the second to the third gear, RPM drops to 1500. And at that time, engine has the same 12 horsepower and so on. Power output stays within 17 horsepower until I switch to fifth gear, and then starts going up as I accelerate. It is actually quite difficult to accelerate quickly with such lower power output. Remember, power is the ability to do work over time. With such low power output, opening the throttle too fast will lead to lagging, which is damaging for your engine. Now let's watch how I usually accelerate and how the engine works. Listen to the sound of the engine. If you have not subscribed to my channel yet, please do me a favor. Click the subscribe button, hit the bell notification icon so you're not gonna miss any of my videos. I accelerate to about 3700 RPM and only then switch the gears. At such RPM, the engine has maximum torque. I accelerate to about 35 kilometers per hour, then switch from the first to the second gear. RPM drops to 2500, and the engine has about 25 horsepower at that moment. When I accelerate to about 52 kilometers per hour and switch from the second gear to third gear, RPM drops to 2660, and the engine has about 28 horsepower, and so on. When I switch to fifth gear, the power is about 34 horsepower. You can see on the chart that speed to switch the gears and respective RPMs that engine runs at. Let me know in the comments below how you accelerate and what your style of riding is. Let's compare the two now. In the first case, the engine runs within the output range between 12 and 17 horsepower at the beginning of each gear. In the second case, the engine runs between 25 and 34 horsepower range at the beginning of each gear, which is 2 times more. It is good to keep the engine RPMs in the higher power band for several reasons. Number one, mostly because you want to be in the right gear for the instant power and torque when needed. It is much easier to accelerate faster with more power in the hands. Number two, the probability of the engine lagging is much lower, and it is good for its health. Lagging is very harmful for the engine. If you ride with lagging, it will eventually destroy the pistons. And number three, it also makes the riding safer on the higher RPM as the bike is more stable. Number four, finally, it just feels so much better, at least to my taste. To demonstrate all of that, I used an online gear calculator from the blocklayer.com. The link is in the description below. I also have there a couple of articles that you might be interested in reading. Now let's talk if we really need the 6th gear on Vulcan 900. I'll tell you what I think. I personally don't need one for the following reasons. Number one, I usually don't ride over 110 kilometers, which is about 68 miles per hour. At this speed, the engine runs at 4000 RPM. Then it still has pretty much the highest torque, and it already has almost the top power. I consider it to be the optimal range for that speed. And to be honest, most of the time I ride on the rural roads at 90 or 100 kilometers per hour. I didn't buy this bike to ride on high-speed freeways for a long time anyway. Number two, I don't hear the engine buzzing at all, at least to me. It is capable of visually going up to 5500, 6000 RPM, which is normal range for this engine. At 5500 RPM, you will go at over 150 kilometers per hour speed. At that point, it would be probably sounding like revving high, but I never ride this fast. Number three, I don't really feel vibration that would make it uncomfortable to ride. To me, the vibration is absolutely normal. I also did a couple of little upgrades that reduce the feeling of vibration. Check out this video about upgrades I did. Number four, it feels like this engine was actually designed to run on a bit higher RPM than other larger cruisers. To me, it feels just right. Let me know what you think about it in the comments. Give me a thumbs up if you like my video. That's it for this video, and I hope it was helpful. Thank you for watching. Have an excellent day and ride safe.